What we need to learn in this area is that the old linear supply chain just isn't a viable model for us any longer. Omnichannel necessarily means there are many paths to get food from production to the consumer. Now, once upon a time, the model allowed for the farmer to grow the base product, for it to then be harvested and sent to the manufacturer, who would then mix, produce, and package the product for our shelves. Then the product would be sent to a distribution center, and from there it would be shipped to the store, where we hoped consumers would purchase it, take it home, and then cook and eat it. Now, clearly, that's a lot of shipping and sending, especially in a consumer-driven, convenience-at-all-costs world where our customers want their products the way they want them, when they want them. So, of course, we now see many deviations from the old linear supply chain, with some links in the chain being bypassed entirely. There are straight from the farm to the customer models being tried. We see manufacturers experimenting with shipping directly to the consumer. Some retailers are growing product. Talk to Neil Golub about his tomatoes, or Brian George about his rooftop herbs. Some of you are trying out different approaches to dealing with the challenges presented by that last mile, recognizing you shouldn't pay one person to put products on the shelf and then turn around and pay another person to take the products off the shelf for home delivery. So you're examining smaller and smarter distribution centers, some even with robotics, that can cater to stores, but also can serve as the hub for home delivery, and perhaps even accommodate customers who would prefer to pick up their orders. All of this necessitates unlearning the old linear model and instead beginning to think in multi-dimensional ways to address the needs at hand. Those needs are speed, efficiency, and convenience for the customer. I think we simply cannot afford to let nostalgia or familiarity limit our ability to imagine how best to move forward and how to move food into the hands and mouths of our customers. And that leads us to what we need to relearn as we build this new omni-channel means of moving food. In the midst of tech efficiency and mechanized speed, we must remember the retail conviction that customer service at its core is about relationships. It's knowing whom you serve and how you can serve them better. We must remember that, and we must relearn ways of establishing and building consumer trust, because managing online relationships has some very different nuances to it. Now, measuring consumer trust has always been a rather tricky endeavor. For instance, in FMI's trends data, when we ask consumers who's working for them and who's working against them in accomplishing their healthy eating objectives, retailers scored an all-time high in 2018, with consumers giving their local store a rating of 55% working for me and only 4% working against me. This was an increase of 10 percentage points over the 2017 scores. But in 2019, we saw that number drop 6 percentage points to 49% for and 4% against. Believe me, we're watching this question very carefully in 2020 to see which way the trend is going on this important data point, because in the short term, consumer trust in retailers appears to be diminishing. But the long-term picture is a bit more hopeful. We'll keep you posted. Now, as I've suggested, the already difficult to measure consumer trust issue gets even more complex when we try to factor in social media and online relationships aspects of it. Quite honestly, when it comes to the social norms and the rules of engagement governing interactions on social media, it's a bit like we're all back on the elementary school playground. Some of us trying to figure out how we interact and behave ourselves, some being bullies, some making cumbersome attempts at engaging others, and most of us just awkwardly standing around trying to figure out the rules to this game. But we must relearn civility, social graces, respectful exchanges, and means of honoring boundaries in the new cyber ways to serve our customers and connect with consumers. While we face many encounters, these face-to-face encounters carry the added benefit of allowing us to read body language and assess receptivity to the messages that we're sharing. To the internet communications, at this point, don't have that capacity, at least not yet. We have to learn new means of relating, carefully reading and testing the limits of technology so that it remains within the range of being helpful and doesn't cross over into being considered intrusive. This calls for us to relearn the lessons of being an honest and transparent broker, but to learn anew how to do that with our digital customers as well as our physical customers. And that brings us to our next topic, which is marketing in a digital world.